Welcome to season 2 of Coming Home to Ourselves, where we aim to bridge the gap between the sacred and modern day responsibilities, barriers, and life. I am Denise Alyssa, your host, channel, mystic, and guide, and I aim to empower you to become your own self healer and an embodied co creator of your life, supporting you in shedding what no longer serves and aligning you with your most authentic and connected version of self. Please note that I am not a medical professional and nothing said in this podcast should be misconstrued as medical advice or replacement of such. If you'd like to know more about my background, training, or the workshops, ceremonies, or other work I offer, please visit www.denisealyssa.com. Hello, friends. Thank you for being here. So, today I want to talk about something that I briefly touched on in one of my earlier episodes. I was talking about stepping away from guru culture. I think that as a society, we're starting to come a long way in this, but as a society, we're also starting to turn more towards spiritual healing and energetics because for a lot of people, what they've been doing to heal or to transform themselves and their lives and how their minds and bodies operate has not been working for them. And as a larger population starts to head towards energy work and meditation and all of this like deep inner healing, nervous system, somatic work, everything that comes along with the work that we do here, I think it's really important to talk about safety within these energetic containers and within doing this work with a guide or a mentor, whoever you choose to do this work with. So, how do you know what is really right for you in an energetic space or when choosing a mentor or choosing a healer? There are a lot of people who call themselves healers, right? And there's not like a governing board for most of these modalities. So, how do you know what is right for you? What is safe for you? How do you know that this person's legit? How do you know that you're not being like scammed or just like taken for a ride? And also, from a safety standpoint, just from your physical body, your energetic body, your emotional body, how do you know that the work that you're doing is in alignment for you and is something that you have the capacity to hold? So let's go into this. I want to start by sharing this quote from Miriam Hasna. This is a quote that I have really carried with me throughout my whole journey, through all of my trainings. I came across this quote quite a long time ago, and it really aligned for me right away. And what I didn't know was that when this quote first came out, it stirred up a lot of controversy. Okay, I wasn't deep enough into these spaces where I would have been noticing this controversy arise, but I actually came across a social media post from her recently sharing a little bit of insight into how much controversy this quote really triggered at the time of her sharing it. So the quote is, "A healer does not heal you. A healer is someone who holds space for you while you awaken your own inner healer so that you may heal yourself." And that is really what I feel is at the foundation of a lot of this work. A healer cannot do something to you to heal you, right? Healing is something that truly stems from within the person who is seeking the healing. So I suppose, or what I read online recently was that this quote stirred up a lot of controversy within the healing world because healers were getting triggered by this concept that they were not the ones doing the work. And that's what I want you to really kind of look out for when you are seeking out somebody to do this work with? Does that healer feel that they are doing this work for you? Or do they feel that they are supporting you in doing this work for yourself? What you want to be aware of is making sure that when you're doing this work with somebody, you are eventually accessing that space within yourself where you are able to activate that own self healer within you. Okay. Every single one of us, to be clear, every single one of us has access to a self healer within us. Okay. That's an innate part of being human. We are all psychics. We are all mediums. We are all people who have this intuitive ability and access to source energy, universal energy. That's not that we're not special for having that. Okay. Every one of you has that. The challenge comes from how deeply are your gifts buried. Most of us, at least where I was raised, we don't grow up being taught about these gifts, being taught how to access them. So, what happens is often as a child, you will have a really strong connection to these gifts, and then it gets buried and it gets buried and it gets buried. And often it gets shamed and it becomes something that is fearful, something that is meant to be hidden because we have a history of witches being burned at the stake or healers being burned or drowned, people who were really truly in touch with these abilities being harmed or killed or sacrificed in some way. And so that has led to generations upon generations of repression of these innate gifts that are within us. But you do have them. So if you're not connected with them yet, all that means is that you're not connected with them yet, right? It doesn't mean that they don't exist within you. It doesn't mean that you don't have them. It doesn't mean that you have to seek them outside of yourself. So when you are working with somebody who can guide you, I call it coming home to yourself, but whatever you want to call it, guide you to connect with that space within you that has access to your own inner healer or connection to your intuition, connection to your higher heart, sensing into the energy field that surrounds each of us and everything on this planet. When you are working with someone who helps you access that space inside of yourself, that's exactly what you want to be doing, is working to access that space. Now, that might be a long process, so I'm not trying to imply that in the first session you should have access to that space. Otherwise, this healer is a scam artist and, they're making you rely on them. That's not what I'm saying. I relied on some of my teachers quite heavily for many years, and it would come and go in waves as I would gain a lot of access to this space. And then the next layers would come up to be healed. And then I would rely on them a little bit more as I started to uncover the next layer. And then I would have really deep access again. And each time I would go through this cycle, my connection to that space would deepen. But in the in between, sometimes it would feel pretty murky, or I would be working through some really deep layers that I needed some support around. And in those times, I would really heavily rely on some of my teachers or my healers. But never did, well, I shouldn't say never, actually. I have been to the odd healer who you could tell that we were never going to get there. Like, we were never going to get to that space where they were going to be supporting me and being able to access that space myself. They were always the one doing the work, right? And that's how they practiced. And I just didn't stick with them. That didn't align for me. But I have had two main teachers and healers throughout my journey. I've had many, but I've had two main consistent ones over the years. And both of them, through their practices, they were naturally holding me and holding that space so that I could eventually find that space for myself. And in the in between, when I needed extra hand holding, or I needed extra support, or I didn't feel like I could really connect to my own intuition in the ways that I needed at the time, then they would step in and they would do some heavier lifting for me. And that's okay. Throughout that whole process, we were lifting the layers that were keeping my gifts buried, that were keeping me disconnected from myself. When I started on this journey, it didn't feel safe to connect with myself in that way at all. I didn't even know if I had these gifts. Everything felt really murky. I remembered things as a child that would suggest that I did have these gifts, but I had a lot of imposter syndrome. I still work through a lot of imposter syndrome, to be completely honest with you. And I just didn't have that self belief because I was so disconnected from myself. It didn't feel safe to be in my body, and it didn't feel safe to be seen as somebody who had this connection to source or connection to energy or could see things or could feel things, because I had spent most of my life in situations where that wasn't safe. The responses from the people around me when these things would come out taught me that this wasn't safe. And that wasn't intentional, it just was the way it was. And I think it's the way that it is for a lot of people growing up. Okay, so in these energetic spaces, there has been a lot of abuse over the years from people who have called themselves healers. Okay, and so whether that is, in person, behind closed doors, in a one on one session, um, physically, things that should not be done within sessions. And unfortunately, the victims coming into this energy healing session, maybe not really knowing what is normal, what is right within an energy healing session, maybe being particularly vulnerable, and the healers taking advantage of them. I don't even want to call them healers, but that's what they're calling themselves, right? So the perpetrator taking advantage of the person who's coming into this one-on-one session behind closed doors. In energy work, there are forms of energy work that have physical touch within them, and there are energy work forms that never have physical touch in them. But I'm going to speak from the foundation of my teaching, which is therapeutic touch. And in therapeutic touch, some people like to have a light touch during their session if it's an in-person session. And that can support them in deepening into relaxation. Some people really enjoy that. Some people don't enjoy that and don't want to be touched for many different reasons. Maybe they have past trauma, maybe they have sensitivities, maybe they're in pain, maybe it's just not their thing, right? And that's okay. So therapeutic touch can actually be done fully hands off, or it can be done hands on. A lot of my work these days is all virtual, which means that none of it is physical touch. But I have over the years done a lot of work where it has involved the option of physical touch in person. And in those sessions, every single time we ask for consent. That is taught to us in therapeutic touch. If you've taken there's 3 levels, and if you have taken those, you are taught right away that you are to ask for consent for touch. You ask if there is anything else that this person wants you to know, if there's anywhere on their body that they don't want to be touched, things like that. This is a conversation that happens at the start of the session before the energy healing practice begins. Once I've been in the energy healing practice, there have been a lot of times where people who have consented to touch, I will intuitively get the hit that actually what needs to be done is above the physical body. Like maybe I'm not meant to touch them in certain ways in certain parts of the practice. So that just is to share with you that physical touch is not a necessary piece of energy work in a lot of circumstances. Okay, there are times when it can be beneficial. There may be practices where physical touch is required. I can't speak to all practices, but this should also be always be a practice of informed consent. Okay, there's no need for them to touch you in a way that you don't feel good about. When you are co-creating in an energetic container with a guide or a healer, you are a crucial part of that co-creation. So if you are not consenting physically, energetically, emotionally, anything, then that should not be happening, right? The same goes for the actual energy work where, sometimes, especially in my work with this intuitive work, you might be going into somebody's Akashic records, you might be going into someone's past lives or someone's ancestral lineage. If that person or their higher self is not consenting to this practice, it should not be done. Okay, none of my work gets done without consent. And sometimes that's consent with the higher self. Maybe I've already consented with the physical person, and now I'm in the energetic container and I'm doing the work. And now maybe I'm communicating with the higher self, depending on the point of the practice. Or maybe I'm coming in and I'm actually verbally consenting again to this next piece with the physical person in front of me. And often it's both. Okay. So consent is such a crucial aspect within any of this work. I surrender all of my work before I start, and then multiple times throughout, to the highest and best of everyone involved and the highest and best of this person who I am working with. That person in front of me is the most important person in that dynamic, right? Obviously, I have to keep myself safe as well, and I have practices to do that. So that's not to say that their safety overrides mine, but I am not the vulnerable person in that dynamic. They are. And so that is an important thing to remember, that this guest's consent is a crucial, like nothing should be done without this guest's consent. I actually spent years not wanting to call myself a healer because of this dangerous kind of cult-like mindset that sometimes comes with that word healer. I spent years promoting myself within energy balancing instead of energy healing, even though it is what I do is intuitive energy healing. It is working with that, integrative biofield healing. And yet I didn't feel comfortable to phrase it that way because I didn't want that cult-like mentality that can sometimes come with the term healer. I didn't want to be placed on a pedestal above the person that I was working with. I believe that we should always be seen as equals. We are human and therefore we are equal. And just because I have access to these gifts in a way that somebody else may not have yet uncovered doesn't make me special. They have access to these gifts, they just have to uncover it. So that's something that you want to be aware of. If you start to see a healer or a mentor who it really feels as though they're placing themselves on a level above you, you want to check in with yourself about that and just ask yourself, does this container feel really right for me? Does this relationship feel in alignment for me and feel safe for me? Now, of course, that person, I'm going to call them a teacher, has more experience than you, and that's why you're going to them. And that's okay. Right? That's necessary for any type of learning. So as you first begin to enter meditation spaces or energy healing spaces, yeah, the teacher is going to know more than you because they've been there, they've been through it. And they shouldn't be a teacher if they don't have something to teach you. But you just always want to be mindful that just because they have more experience than you doesn't always mean that what they have to offer is in alignment with you at this time. One of the top rules within my practice is take what resonates for you and leave the rest behind. Okay? So just because this person is teaching one way of doing things doesn't mean that that's the only way to do it. And if it doesn't feel safe to you, if it doesn't feel in alignment for you, then that is something that you should leave behind. And sometimes you're going to take pieces of different practices and integrate them in your own ways into something that does work for you, that may look different than what that person was teaching originally. And that's okay too. The the trick is to really utilize your own intuitive discernment to know what is right for you at any given time. And then of course, to get to that space, you do have to go back to the basics and begin to uncover that connection to self where you can access that. So, how do you know if a teacher is right for you, or a healer, or a guide, or a mentor is right for you in this way? Now, when you have connected with your own intuition and you have that clear channel to your own intuitive discernment, then that is what's going to tell you. But in the beginning, before you have access to that, because that is still buried somewhere, you haven't connected with it yet, that's why you're seeing this person in the first place, right? So when you're still at that stage where you don't have access to your own intuition in that way yet, you want to get to know the person you're working with. Okay? So don't just see an ad on Instagram and take their one-off little soundbite and decide that they're a good person for you or a good fit for you. If you intuitively know right away that they are a good fit for you, then that's okay. Maybe you already have connection to that space. But if you are still developing that, get to know the person who you want to work with. Get to know multiple people who you might want to work with, and then choose who might be a good fit for you. So, depending on how that teacher works, you might be able to, deep dive their social media. You might be able to read their website. Some of them, like myself, might have a guiding principles page on their website. I have kind of a one pager of just a brief insight into what I think a healer is and is not, and what the guiding principles that I feel really really lead my practice are, right there on my website for you to read. I'm very transparent about that. I feel like that's a really important piece within this work, obviously, since I'm recording this episode. So some other healers might have pages like that, one pagers, where you can just read about them in this way. You might be able to find them through word of mouth, where you've spoken to other people who have gone to them, who you trust and who you feel in alignment with, and maybe their experiences can guide you. Now, I do want to place a caveat on that though, because I have actually taken the advice of friends and teachers who have been to other people and spoke incredibly highly of them, and I went to them myself kind of expecting the same outcome, and it turned out that it just wasn't really right for me. It wasn't in alignment for me at that time. So again, you always want to be coming back to yourself. You want to be the one who is making this choice for you. Some other ways that you can get to know these teachers or mentors or healers is, you know, send them an email, find out how do you make an appointment, and then connect with them in that way. And don't be afraid to ask some questions so that you can be going into this session with informed consent. Another way to get to know them, and this is kind of how I approach it at this stage, because I can first use my intuitive discernment. Does this person feel like a good fit for me? Does this feel safe for me? Does this feel in alignment for me? And then from there, I can actually just book an appointment. I can set my own protection and ask for some heightened cues within this session that something is safe for me, that it's in alignment. And then from there, I can both keep myself safe and experience their session. And from there, decide if it's a good fit for me. I get to ask all the questions that I want to ask. I often go into the first session not expecting too much energy wise, because I know that there's going to be a whole lot of talking taking up that time where I can really feel them out and ask what the questions that I need to ask and make sure that I'm going into this with informed consent. I am incredibly cautious about who I let do energy work on me. So I'm even part of some practice groups and some things like that for other healers where we can show up and work on each other, and we have a teacher there and we can practice and we can kind of stay up to date in our practices. And even within those spaces, I have had some really unfortunate outcomes from some of this energy work from skilled healers, incredibly kind, wonderful, amazing people who I really like them. And when they come into my energy field and do work on there, I am a highly, highly sensitive person, and I live with complex chronic diseases. So that means that when something goes off in my energy field, it often starts to show up through my symptoms in my body, and I feel it in a very, very physical way. So I am incredibly cautious about who I allow to do this work on me and who I let into my field in that way. And I recommend that you get cautious about that too. You don't have to be fearful. I'm not saying get scared, but I'm saying really align yourself, use your own intuitive discernment to choose what is right for you. When you are choosing a healer, a guide, a mentor, a teacher, there shouldn't be ego and fear in that. You shouldn't choose them because of your people pleasing tendencies and you want to give them a shot. You should choose them because it really feels truly aligned for you. One of the things that brings in the most integrity and safety within an energetic container is when the healer is connecting with universal energy and asking that it is universal energy that works through them rather than their own. There's a handful of kind of safety nets that I put into place in my sessions, and that I know that my teachers and some of the healers that I really have high respect and high regard for put into place in their energy healing sessions, that are to ensure that the energy that is being transferred or offered is coming through source energy or through universal energy, the most pure, loving energy, rather than through their human self. Because when we act through our human self, what comes with being human? An ego. What comes with being human? Fear. What comes with being human? Expectations. So it's really important that the healer that is working on you has detached from outcome so that they can offer this energy to you, and your self, your energy body, can accept what is in alignment for you at this time and what is safe for you at this time, because you are not necessarily in a place to integrate everything that is offered all the time. Integration is a whole process in itself. So the healer can offer this. You can accept and integrate that which is in perfect alignment for you, that which is safe for you. And that healer can detach from outcome, knowing that you are going to receive what is in perfect alignment for you at this time, and that we don't need to control that. If I go into an energy session thinking, I really want this person to leave this session pain free or completely healed from their recent trauma or whatever it may be. If I go in with this certain like expectation and then I place values upon that expectation, such as I'm a good healer if suddenly their ankle doesn't hurt when they walk out of here. Well, now I have placed my worth within their experience of this session. And now I'm going to be acting from ego within this session because now my worth is relying on this session going in a certain way and on that person integrating this energy in a certain way. And that's not safe. Now I'm bringing things through force instead of through flow and receptivity and offering. When I show up in integrity, I should be recognizing it's not up to me what this person integrates, what this person's path is. I can offer what I'm being intuitively guided to offer. I can offer what the energy field is asking for. I'm being guided by the energy field throughout the entire session rather than through like my thinking mind or my ego mind. So I can show up detached from outcome, knowing that this person is going to receive what is in perfect alignment for them at this time, and that my value, my worth is not dependent on how they receive or experience this session or what shifts happen for them after this session. I recognize that I don't know everything about their path. I'm connecting in with their higher self, but I don't necessarily know exactly what lessons they're meant to learn from something, exactly how long that's going to take. I don't know how they're showing up in their lives outside of this session, what they're going to do with this information that they receive in the session, if they're going to integrate it appropriately, if they're just going to revert back to their old habits and patterns. I have no control over that. And the minute I start trying to control, the integrity in that session is lost. So I have to show up detached from outcome, connected to source energy, asking that source universal energy is flowing through me, that I am offering that energy out to them rather than through my own human self, and that they will receive exactly what is in perfect alignment for them at this time, whether I know it or not. That I don't need some kind of external validation to tell me what my value is based on their experience. And when I start operating from that detachment from outcome, from that space of pure, compassionate love, source energy flowing through me, that is when integrity comes in. That's the most high integrity space that you can be working in. And that's what you want from whoever you are choosing to do this work with. Nobody else can truly know what is right for you but you. And that feels muddy when you are in the trenches, when you are in that starting space where you're not connected with yourself in this way yet. You're still really connected to like external validation, external sources for knowing what is good for you, what is not good for you. And then you come to a healer. Well, that can be an incredibly vulnerable place to be because you don't have that connection to self yet. So you want to know through getting a sense of this healer, through asking questions, maybe through deep diving their social media or reading their website, that is the space that this healer is operating from. Another question that you can ask to, somebody that you're considering working with is, how do you connect with the energy and how do you hold that space? What does it mean to you when you create an energetic container for us to work in? And when you're calling in universal support, what are you calling in? Who are you calling in? Are you calling anyone and anything, like any energy that is around? Or do you have practices in place and safeguards in place to make sure that the energy that you're calling into this session is in the highest and best of everyone involved? Is this benevolent, light, loving beings that you're calling in? Or are you just calling in like whatever is nearby, whatever you have access to? Because you don't want to just be calling into a session anything and everyone who is energetically available to you at this time. They're not all high vibrational positive energies. Even when we call in our ancestors, not all of our ancestors were supportive, benevolent, high frequency, light, loving beings. Not all of our past lives we have been, high frequency, light loving beings. Each person has had past lives where they were like not always a really good person for whatever circumstances may have led them there, whatever lessons they needed to learn at that time, and whatever soul contracts they had signed before coming into this life. So we don't want to just be calling in whatever. We want to really know that the energies that we are accessing are in alignment with light, in alignment with love, are for our highest and best at this time, you know? And that goes in with your own work too, especially in the early days when you don't have teachings or access to creating that safe energetic container for you to even do your own work in at home. You don't want to just be calling in whoever. You want to know that who you are calling in and the energetic support that you are calling in is truly supportive, is aligned with love. So these are really good questions that you can ask, like what safeguards does this person have in place to make sure that they're not bringing in extra energies? Another really good one is, what safeguards does this healer have in place to make sure that they are not connecting cords to you and that you are not connecting cords to them throughout this session? And how are you ensuring that you're not creating a codependent relationship with this teacher or healer, or them to you? So these are really good things to consider, to ask yourself, to ask the teacher or healer or guide, whoever you're going to be working with, and to really sit with for yourself, right? So I have safeguards in place. Like before I start a session, I have a practice that opens up the container, that keeps me safe, that keeps them safe, that keeps us from attaching cords to each other, and that keeps me detached from outcome, that keeps universal support energy working through me rather than my own. And I place protections around this, I call it an energetic container, but basically like a shield that comes around the energetic space that we're doing that work in, that holds you there. And then I have 4 guardians who stand around this energetic container and really support the integrity within that space. So that's a safeguard from outside energies. It's also a safeguard from my ego, from anything that might accidentally come through me that is not in alignment with that session at that time. I have practices for myself that I do before I even open the energetic container that, again, place protections around me, but not only around me, but protects the outside world from anything that could come from me unintentionally or intentionally that are not aligned with the highest and best of everyone involved. So that's a practice that I do every single day. I always want to be protecting the outside world from anything that I might accidentally send out that is not in alignment. And I want to be protecting myself from anything that other people might send to me. So I have daily practices, I have special practices before a session. Then I open up the energetic container. I have an entire practice there. I have recentering practices throughout the session. If I'm feeling like, oh, I might sense myself veering off, or I sense myself heading into ego or into fear, I have recentering practices that can bring me back if I do experience that. And then at the end of a session, I have practices that, you know, release you from that container. They disconnect me from that session. They clear and cut any cords that may have been attached intentionally or unintentionally between me and my guest or my guests. Like often I'm in groups, offering this work to groups of up to 60 people at a time. So this is a really important practice to keep myself safe as the one offering the energy, and also to keep my guests safe as the people who are coming in and allowing themselves to be vulnerable in this way and opening themselves up to receiving the energy that I'm offering. So, that's just like a few of the practices that I have that I use all the time for any of my sessions, but there's actually more. And if you ask a healer or a mentor or a teacher or a coach, like guide, what practices do you have in place? What safeguards do you have in place to ensure the energetic safety between you and me in our session? How do you ensure that this is in alignment with the highest and best of everyone involved? Or are you just winging it? Is this ego based? Is this source based? Like how is this energy coming through, and what practices do you make sure that you have in place and safeguards in place to keep everybody safe? So, another thing that you can do before heading into a session, before any kind of energetic container, is actually just place protections for yourself. So, I do have some meditations available that can support you with this, but there are many, many different ways of doing it. I'm just noticing our time, so I'm not going to actually go into a big practice right now. But anytime I am on the receiving end of an energy session, I always ground myself, I place protections, I clear and cut cords ahead of time and clear any psychic attack energy, anything no longer serving me in my energy field ahead of time, just to do that kind of like, brushing off, that like showering, that daily hygiene of my energy system before I head into this session. And that's just to maximize like the benefits that I can get from that session. But in that, I'm also grounding myself deeply. I'm connecting myself to source. I'm centering myself and connecting with my own intuition so that I can know what's right for me at any given time. And then I'm placing energetic protections around myself that will continue to allow in what is in alignment with my highest and best at this time, but will repel the things that are not going to serve me. So if something gets sent my way that is not going to serve me, it just bounces off and returns to the source of its origin to be transmuted with love. So there are so many different ways to do this. You want to find the one that really feels right for you. Like I said on my website, I have a few offerings that can help you with this if you feel called to them, but what's really important is that you just find the type that works for you. And then from there, you can enter that energy session from a space of greater trust that you're only going to receive what is in alignment with your highest and best at this time, what is safe for you to integrate at this time, what your nervous system and your energy system has the capacity to hold at this time. That's going to lead us into a whole other conversation that I'm probably going to have to do an episode on in the future, which is, integration and the importance of not bringing in more than what we have the capacity to hold at one time, because that can send us into things that we call like healing crises, things like that. And that can be a pretty dark, like spirally road when we start to try to bring in more than what we have the capacity to hold and to integrate. Okay, so I actually want to do one quick practice with you guys. It's going to be quick, but what I want you to start to get a sense of is, how does it feel in your body when something is a yes or a no for you? How do you know what is right for you? Right? So maybe start by just centering yourself now and asking yourself that question. How do I know what is right for me and what isn't? And just see what comes through. And now what I want you to do is, if you are sitting or standing or lying down, however your body is positioned, just feel really anchored to where you are right now. Okay? Inviting yourself into the present moment, inviting yourself to connect inward in any way that you have access to at this time. If you're standing, feeling your feet secure on the ground. If you're sitting or lying down, just noticing how that chair or bed or floor really holds and supports your body. And now I want you to say to yourself, out loud or in your head, it doesn't matter, show me what a yes feels like. Show me what a yes feels like. And I just want you to notice how that feels in your body. Now, recognizing and honoring that the earlier you are in your journey, the more layers that you still have yet to uncover, the more disconnected you still are from yourself. This practice may not feel super easy to you. It may not feel like a lot comes through to you yet, or like you sense a lot of shifts yet, and that's okay. But throughout your practices, as you're deepening into your meditation, or you're receiving energy healing and uncovering these layers, or even doing like somatic work or therapy work, but I'm more referring to bottom up processing, things that connect you back into your senses and into your body. I want you to come back to this practice periodically. Show me what a yes feels like in my body. And just check in. Does it change? Does it show you more? Has it shifted? And now the next question I want you to ask yourself is, show me what a no feels like in my body. Show me what a no feels like in my body. And just allow the sensations to arise, allow them to be shown to you. And what you may have noticed is that if you didn't feel very much in the yes, you might have noticed quite a bit of contrast in the no, which may have shown you what a yes feels like, right? Because a no and a yes are not going to feel the same. So sometimes you need that contrast in order to kind of sense into your body in that way when you're in those initial stages of just beginning to reconnect with your body in this way. And I just want you to know how excited I am for you to be taking this journey, to be taking these steps to reconnect with yourself in this way, and to build safety within your body so that as life happens, you can stay tethered to your body, to yourself, and connected to yourself in a way that will allow you to really access this inner knowing more naturally really easily on a regular basis. Like these things are going to come through to you quite clearly, quite naturally as you continue this process, as you do more bottom up processing, as you uncover these layers, as you allow your somatic responses, your nervous system responses to complete, right? Just through sensing and through feeling, as you allow those unfinished processes to complete, as you expand your nervous system and energetic capacity, you are going to naturally begin to start connecting with yourself in this way. And it really is beautiful because, how many of us just go through life feeling so unsure of ourselves? I used to be so unsure of myself. Like I needed external validation. I needed other people to guide me. I felt like I needed, you know, courses and certificates and even just like a friend or a stranger to like tell me that what I was doing was valuable, or that I had any self-worth on this planet at all. My self-worth was so low that it didn't feel like anything I did had any kind of impact. It didn't feel like my existence mattered. And what this led to was making a lot of decisions and taking a lot of actions that really didn't align with who I was, because I was allowing myself to be led by people who weren't in alignment with who I am, who had less than high integrity in their own way of being, in their own thoughts and actions. It led me into some dangerous situations, and it led me into situations where like I did things that I'm not proud of too, because I just wasn't acting in alignment with who I am. I didn't even know who I was. I didn't know what felt right to me. I I just went with kind of what was giving me that validation, or like meeting some of those needs in the moment, because I didn't know how to meet them myself, and I didn't know how to be with myself in this way. And I definitely didn't know how to be in my body. Right? The thought of being in my body felt super scary, felt really gross, and for a lot of good reasons, and I understand those. But what would happen was that through like talk therapy, I would come to understand those things intellectually, but not actually be able to change them through my way of being. Like those things weren't changing with the intellectual understanding of why I was the way I was, or why I was doing the things I was doing. And it wasn't until I really connected with meditation and energy work and other forms of bottom up processing and somatic work that this shift happened, where slowly I started to reconnect with my body in different ways, and reconnect with myself, my sense of self, and to really anchor into that space where I know who I am. And when the world asks me to be something different, or when situations arise, I am able to know, like truly in my heart, in my gut, in my body, in my mind, in my energy field, what is truly right for me and what is not. And that's not to say that I never question it. This is a journey, right? We're cyclic beings. We come in cycles. We return to the same places to do this work from a new way of being, to uncover the next layer. So I still have like tools in my toolbox like this, sensing into my body what is a yes, what is a no, or I use a pendulum, or I use my oracle cards, or I meditate on it, or I sense into my body and I really feel like what is true for me. And through those practices, I'm able to continue through those next layers and through those cycles while remaining connected and tethered to my body, instead of just disassociating and detaching from my body as soon as something uncomfortable arises. So if you are like in the beginning stages of this, or even if you're not, I have just developed a new online container for this kind of work. I'm so excited about it. This is like 10 years in the making, it feels like. Because it's been a long journey for me. I've had a lot of health challenges along the way. I had a lot of my own inner work to do, and each step of the trainings that I took would lead me into the next piece of myself, the next layer that I had to uncover or reintegrate or allow myself to feel or to release or clear or heal, that could get me to a place where I could truly offer this work out to other people with integrity. And I don't think that that journey is ever going to end. I think that that is part of being human. And that's okay. I'm in a space now where, or I have been for a few years now, let's say like 7 years now, where I've been able to offer this work out to other people from a space of integrity. And so my newest creation, this like baby of mine, it feels like it really has its own energy field. It has like a life of its own. It was something that really was asking to be birthed through me from spirit for a long time. And I'm so grateful that it has all come together now. So on my website, www.deniseelysa.com, that's DENISEELYSA.com, I now have offerings of workshops, ceremonies, meditations, energy healing transmissions, card readings. There's the spring equinox has just passed, right? But there was a spring equinox ceremony on there. If you still want to get in on that, it's not too late to do so. There's a gratitude immersion, which is like an experiential workshop, and it comes with a few bonus tracks of meditations and daily practices that will really support you in connecting with this practice on a daily basis, so that then you can create a practice that really aligns for you and fits into your life in the way that however your life is, because that's going to change, right? All of these daily practices that have served me so deeply have had to have room to ebb and flow as my life has changed. And I think that that's really important for you too. So my hope is that through something like the gratitude immersion, for example, you will be able to connect with kind of that hand holding for that daily practice until you feel like, okay, I've got this and I know what works for me. And then you can integrate that into your life in the way that really serves you now. And then as your life ebbs and flows, you can allow those practices to ebb and flow with you and to shift as needed for whatever stage of life that you're in at this time. And you'll have that immersion to go back to if you ever just feel like, whoa, my life has shifted so drastically that now I don't even know how to reintegrate these practices. Then you can go back to that immersion again, do it again. I really want you to be able to learn how to do these things for yourself. And then maybe you naturally allow those practices to ebb and flow with you. But I know from my life experience, when there has been really massive and sudden changes, like having a baby or, coming out of remission, getting really, really sick again, ending up bedbound again, things like that have come up quite suddenly, then, it can really like throw you off kilter. And those times are really an opportunity to shift your practices in the way that serves you now. Maybe how you were once doing it no longer works for you. And now this is an opportunity for growth or for change or for shifting it into who you want to be, into who you're becoming instead of who you were. Anyways, once you've bought it, it's going to be there and you can go back to it at any point to just reintegrate that into your life as needed. There's also like a 5-week series that was originally developed and channeled for patients living with complex chronic diseases. I know if you've been with me for a while, you know how close to my heart that is. I do offer a meditation and energy healing group through an internal medicine clinic in Vancouver, where I offer to their patients meditation and energy balancing in 5-week groups. So, what I have done is I've taken that group that I created for them and channeled for them, and I have privately recorded it and slightly expanded on it because it's different when you're not showing up live. So, there's still a place for me to show up live in this group for these internal medicine patients, and it brings me a lot of joy, and I'm so honored to do so. But there's a large population of people who can't access my services that way because they're not with this clinic. And you have to be within this clinic in order to access my groups. And that way, it all goes through the clinic. It doesn't go through me. So in this way, I have privately recorded it. It has given me an opportunity to slightly expand on it in a way that I don't have the same opportunity to do in the time frame that I have with the clinic, and just be able to offer it out to those of you who are not connected to the clinic. I know that I've had a lot of inquiries from some people who are living with complex chronic diseases, other people who just feel like they need that container to allow that transformation in their lives. They might not be living with complex chronic illness, but maybe they're feeling stuck. Maybe they're feeling like they know that something in their life is just feeling a little bit out of alignment and they're not quite sure where to begin. Then this is a really nice starting point. So you can find that on the website as well. Sliding scale is something that's really important to me. It is something that I had integrated into my website. So any of the larger offerings at this time have sliding scale integrated into the ordering system. So you don't have to call me, you don't have to ask for it, you don't have to make your case for why you need it. Like if you need sliding scale, if that's something that's going to benefit you at this time, use it. Please use it. That's what it's there for. I know that for myself, I've had times in my life where I needed sliding scale in order to access different services, important services like counseling and mental health work and this kind of spirituality work, the things that were really going to create those shifts in my life. I couldn't access financially without sliding scale at some points in my life. And at those times, what I really noticed within myself was that I was more likely to go without the service or to push myself to a breaking point in trying to make extra money to cover the service than I was to ask for sliding scale, even if I knew it was available. So that has been integrated right into the site so that you don't have to ask for it. And really, I just trust that people are going to use it in the way that they need to for them at this time. And that's that. I want this work to reach people. I want people to have access to it in a way that doesn't put them beyond their means. So that's why that's there. I also send out occasionally discount codes through my newsletter, and those discount codes can also be applied to the sliding scale. So if sometimes the discount codes will be for a certain program, sometimes they'll be broader. But what I want you to know is that if that discount code is applicable to one of the sliding scale products, you can use it in conjunction with the sliding scale. So if the sliding scale amount is still too high for you, or this discount code comes in and you're somebody who needs sliding scale at this time, and please still use sliding scale. Use the sliding scale and add the discount code and get it down to the price that you need it to be so that this work can serve you without pushing you outside of your financial means. We're in a society that requires you to have an income to survive at this point in modern day, and I really really want people to be able to access this work, and I don't want finances to be a barrier. I really feel like the more we heal ourselves and the more that every single person on this planet heals themselves, that ripple effect, we might not see it, but it's incredible. Okay, that ripple effect for you doing this work for yourself, it ripples out like through your entire ancestral line, backwards and forwards, but also like to your neighborhood, to your friends, to the coffee shop you go to. Like your whole vibration changes, which changes how you walk through this world. And so the more we do this work for ourselves and support ourselves in this way and really come home to ourselves, I feel like the more the planet is going to heal and the more that everybody here is going to heal. So, anyways, that's just, I think I kind of went on a spiel there more than I intended to, but this is something that is really important to me. And I don't want people to avoid using sliding scale because they're too ashamed to use it. It's there for a reason. It's there to help you. And if you are somebody who would benefit from this work and feels called to this work and called to my programs, and you require sliding scale in order to access them, or would be greatly supported by sliding scale in order to access them, please use it. Please use it. That's what it's there for. And don't be afraid to add the discount codes onto the sliding scale if that opportunity arises. Again, that comes through my newsletter, so you can sign up for that on my website if you're interested. One other thing that I offer to my newsletter is once a month, I pull a name from my newsletter subscribers. I call them my email community. So once a month from my email community, I pull a name and I offer a like a program of their choosing to them. So they have won an on-demand offering and they get to choose which one it is like serves them, and I just give them a code for that offering. So again, if you want a chance to win any of these on-demand offerings for free, complimentary, then just get on that newsletter, subscribe there on my website, and once a month you will have an opportunity to win. So thank you for being here. This all went longer than I expected it to today, but this is a subject that is not only just so important to me, but I think is so important to this work. And like I said, as more people turn to this work, because, the talk therapy, the medical system, the things that we've been doing to heal ourselves have not been working, more and more people turn to this work. And I really feel like this work is an integral piece of our holistic healing. So I don't think it's the whole piece, but I think it's a large, necessary piece of our holistic healing and should be used in conjunction with all of the other modalities, medical system, medicines, talk therapy, whatever it is that truly serves you. I think that this is a big piece that needs to be used in conjunction and in partnership with. So, as more people flock to this work, I think it's really crucial to have more conversations around safety in energetic work, safety in energetic containers, safety in choosing your coach or your healer or your guide, and just really learning how to connect with that intuitive wisdom within so that you can know what's right for you at any given time, and just really knowing who you're doing this work with so that you can go deeper, safer. I think that's so important. As always, thank you so much for being here. I really hope this serves. As always, I am trusting you to take what resonates with you and leave the rest behind. Please be sure to hydrate and care for yourself well, as any of the energetic transmissions, meditations, or self-healing prompts integrate into your system in the coming days or weeks. As with all the work that I do, I ask that this aligns for the highest and best of everyone involved, and I trust that you will only receive that which is in true alignment for you at this time. If this resonated with you, I invite you to consider giving back through your likes, ratings, comments, shares, or subscribes, as those help so much on these platforms. If you're ready to go deeper than what these platforms can provide, I offer ceremonies, workshops, guided practices, and more at www.denisealyssa.com. I look forward to connecting with you there.